So what we're sharing with you tonight is really to facilitate your input. Nothing, what we're showing you tonight, nothing's locked in set in stone. Part of feasibility is really determining whether this is a project that the community wants. And so public comment is really important. We're going to be talking about some public input opportunities. I'm going to be providing some background information about why we're doing this study. We're going to share some potential alignments and designs. And really, again, this all is to solicit community input. We do not have funding for construction of this project. Again, this is really high level. And actually, this project, one of the key goals is to support securing funding for projects that I've already worked with the community. So, you know, one reaction might be, Becky, why are you studying for something new when you haven't even built what we worked with you previously on? So we're going to touch on that. Here we go. So for some background, some of you may know me from working with the community over the last year on developing a vision for the future of Blue River Drive. So we had some community meetings. I heard that the community wanted to see some infrastructure changes on Blue River Drive to better meet its needs to improve safety and comfort for people walking and biking, to make parking downtown easier. And Blue River Drive is the main county road through Blue River. And so the Board of County Commissioners, after this public process, approved a design concept for the future of Blue River Drive. And I've been working since then to secure funding. I've pursued multiple grants. I'm looking at federal grants. And a lot of the federal grants, they want to see a comprehensive package that's multimodal, that's resilient, that provides, emergency access, bike ped connectivity. So this study is to help supplement and build upon the work that we've already done together. So just as a reminder, or those who are new to this concept, the vision for the portion of Blue River Drive between the school and the bridge is primarily for a multi-use path along the south side of Blue River Drive. And that's to really make it more of a realistic idea that a parent would feel comfortable having their child walk from school to the library downtown and having some separation from vehicles. Then for the downtown, the vision is to provide sidewalks on both sides and to really formalize on-street parking. Then there's Blue River Bridge, which connects the two. What I heard from the community is people love this bridge. There was a strong desire to protect it in its current condition. It does have sidewalks, but it's very narrow and it's not seismically sound, which means wouldn't withstand an earthquake. And so my project didn't really get into how to improve safety for this, other than to potentially add some additional warning signage to people driving, like there's someone on the bridge trying to walk or bike. Be careful because it's really narrow. And so this study is looking at, well, how do we fill those functional gaps? Is it feasible to construct something that would help kind of literally bridge the gap in functions that the existing bridge provides? And I think that would potentially open up more funding options at the federal level. There are funding sources around resiliency, funding around bridges, and ultimately it could connect the community better and provide a more resilient, complete network. So this study, it's looking at bicycle and pedestrian access, and also whether that type of bridge could also support an emergency vehicle and be seismically sound or withstand an earthquake. And our goal is really to develop something that the community prefers, that provides good bicycle and pedestrian connectivity from the school to the downtown, is seismically resilient for emergency access, and especially just improves our overall success of realizing the vision that we've already created together for Blue River Drive at the federal grant funding level. Also really important, there's a lot of excellent work being done by McKenzie Community Land Trust. As some of you may know, they have created a vision with the community for kind of broader connectivity from for a trail or path. And this is just a close-up view of that larger vision. The yellow dashed line is showing the portion that interfaces with the bridge and the study location that we're looking at. So there's many ideas for where this type of facility could cross Blue River. So we're going to talk about some pros and cons of each of these. And we're going to be soliciting community input on their preferences, like where would they most use this type of facility, if they even want this type of facility at all. So that's part of our feasibility. And I'm going to turn it over to John to explain the different alignment options. And John, you'll prompt me about when to advance to the next slide, although I'll just let you know my advanced slides key is a little sticky, so I'm a little slow.
Yeah, thank you very much, Becky. Could you just go back to the overview one slide?
Yes.
And I really want to invite Anna and Andy Camp, also from KPFF, to chime in here, because they are very involved in this project and working to improve Blue River a lot. So they have a lot to say. And then Becky, thank you for driving the slides. And if you could give me a heads up if there are questions in the chat, because I'm really bad at monitoring the chat. So, right, as Becky said, there are a number of different places we could put a bridge across Blue River. This is what in the bridge construction industry we refer to as the alignment. And while this is a feasibility study, this part of it, which is a really important question to answer for ourselves, where is the bridge going to go? This part of it right now, we're really talking more about the suitability of these different locations, meaning how well does it get you from point A to point B? Who is adjacent to it? Where are the users coming from and where are they going to? Those kind of qualities. And we're talking less about some of the nuts and bolts of feasibility, like what kinds of permits would we need to obtain and how much right-of-way property would we need to acquire. So we don't have all the answers for sure on some of those nuts and bolts questions yet, but I think it's really important as we narrow these down to get your input on, the qualitative. What are the advantages and disadvantages of each of these? And before we dive in, Becky, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you have a form that you're going to send out so people can submit their input to us in written form. Is that right?
I do. So most of the visuals that are going to be presented tonight, they're going to be on a form, and there will be prompts for the public to tell us what they like, what they don't like, some advantages and disadvantages to each of these alignments.
Yep, thank you. So you'll see all these graphics again and have a chance to comment on them later, but don't let that stop you from adding things into the chat. Okay, so let's take a look in a little more detail at each of these four options here. you see one next to here we go, the first one, somewhere nestled alongside the highway bridge. And we've just sort of outlined some of the aspects of this. Some are good, some are bad. Maybe not all of them are necessarily good or bad, but they're just observations about what this would get you. It's farthest from Blue River Drive and from that new multi-use path. It does have perhaps some easier construction access next to the highway, that easement. Although again, we haven't delved into those details yet. And it would put you on a road to the MCLT path to the north of the river. You would need to go farther south to connect back over to Blue River Drive on the south side of the river. So that's one option. Second option is, you see it here. It is not immediately west, but a little ways downriver, a little ways west of the existing Blue River Drive. There is actually, if you look at the tax lots, and you can see these white lines on this slide, there is actually a kind of alley throughway that goes right through there. It's not super wide, but it's there. And so we could use that alignment and put a bridge right across there. I believe, Anna, correct me if I'm wrong, that it's shown landing over or on or nearby the Mackenzie River Trust property. Is that correct?
It's one over. So it lands, it does not, or I guess it's 2 lots over from there.
2 lots over. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. This alignment, it threads the needle a little bit through this easement that I mentioned. But when it lands you on both sides reasonably close to Blue River Drive and the pathway, with certainly space available to make those connections, whether you're walking or biking. There would be some, in this little zigzag you see here, to get back onto this multi-use path with Blue River Drive, we would need to do some landscaping and grading and make sure things aren't too steep there. But that all seems like it could be done in a very nice way. So then the third one, and that's the fourth one. Let's go back just one. There we go. The third one is trying to nestle a bridge right up next to the Blue River Drive bridge, because there is a little bit of an easement there, as you can see from these tax lot lines. It's a little bit tight, and again, we'd have to do further study to make sure it could be put in there. It's really cheek by jowl with this existing bridge, which we're going to talk about in a minute. It's really beautiful. But on the other hand, it also gives really nice advantages to the way it meets Blue River Drive at either end, and gives you options to pick up cross streets depending on where a user of the bridge might be going or coming from. One of the options in general, some of the things that we're thinking about as we look at these are not only how convenient they are for people, to use, where they're going to, where they're coming from, how they get onto and off that future multi-use pathway and or the other streets in Blue River. But then we're also looking at things like proximity to the neighbors. We would want to light this bridge for safety so that people felt safe and secure using it at night. And so neighbors might have some concerns about how that lighting is going to work. We do need to really think about construction access, because there's going to be, need to get some heavy equipment wherever we need to build this bridge, strategically place it, and certain other things. So we've just tried to, at first pass, annotate some of these pros and cons. But the fourth option here is just upstream of the Blue River Bridge. And you can see it similarly on the south side. It provides pretty good connectivity. there's a little bit of an issue one would normally be concerned about of landing a pedestrians and bicycles this close to an intersection. Although I don't think probably that the intersection, the amount of traffic on Rose Street is super heavy, so it's probably okay. The one most notable issue here with this one is that when you come off the bridge on the north end, users would need to cross Blue River Drive to get back onto this pathway. So those are the 4 locations, alignments that we're looking at. Again, Becky was going to send out a form that has these on them, and with space for you to add your comments. Your feedback will be really helpful because we're doing this for you. We want it to work for all of you. Does anybody have any comments or questions on what they saw? Okay, Mary Ellen has a question. Go ahead.
Now I have more of a comment.
Okay, great.
Well, I'm just looking at, to me, this is not even, I don't really consider it as a need for this community. That's just my personal opinion. For emergency basis, all properties if the bridge went out, every house is still accessible by other avenues. But I guess my biggest concern on the placement of the bridges of where you have them scoped out is basically like the one below, that easement goes right through somebody's property, basically on both sides of the bridge, I should say. So you're talking about safety and lighting, and I mean, those easements were abolished basically 50 years ago. Not abolished, but nobody's done anything with them. And so it has become part of the property. And on the one property, I have just recently placed a home for a fire survivor. So I don't know. I just have some major concerns with this whole project. So, but I think that money's well spent doing something else. So. Well, that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And that's exactly the kind of feedback we want, is just really honest. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I don't want to invest further into something that's not the right thing for the community. So that's what this feasibility study is for. I heard some issues with the bridge. I've been trying to get funding for the other project. Again, this is just to see whether something like this is feasible, and community input is a big part of it. So I really appreciate that. Don't feel badly about that. This is exactly what we're here for. Cliff, if you want to go ahead.
Sure. Thank you. In looking at the 4 different options here, I only see one that might be viable, in my opinion. I agree with Mary Ellen that the 2 just below the bridge are problematic because that easement is really narrow through there, and it would really bisect with the property owner that she referred to, their property. I don't think it would be either look good on the bike path for the pedestrians coming into somebody's property and looking right down into their front and backyards, or it just wouldn't look. It would look out of place. I think there is concerns with the one that's closest on the lower end of the bridge as well, in my opinion, for the same reason. You're right up against that property owner just on the other end. And also, both accesses are coming off of streets that can be used either for emergency purposes and themselves. So you're dumping people out into the Rose Street, or you're dumping them out into River Street. And then on the proposal on the upper side of Blue River Bridge, the same way. That's my concern is crossing Blue River Drive, which defeats your purpose of somewhat of safety for the ped path. You're putting them right out there on a corner. The bridge is a corner in itself. So, and then on the other end, going on to Rose Street to the park, we hope that we'll get more access or more people going into the park. So there again, you've got a narrow opportunity there for people to get off the bridge and then interact with the traffic. So the only proposal that seems reasonable to me is the one that's down along the main highway. It does connect to the proposal that the MCLT is putting as far as a pedestrian path. It comes off the Riverwalk, which is was put together by a group of residents in a project with Ford Family Foundation, and which we still have some funds to help improve that section from the Riverwalk up to the old bridge. So that would be, to me, a viable option because it does put people onto the ped path going back down to the school. It can access Blue River. And I think I mentioned to Becky, you could also, if you wished, you could put another trail or ped path down underneath the existing main highway bridge for the main highway and get on the south side of the McKenzie Highway and then put another trail up to the county boat ramp. So people wouldn't have to cross the main highway if they were walking from the main county boat ramp over to Blue River, which people do it now, and that's a dangerous intersection to try to get across. So I would favor, if any bridges are put in, that you put one down there at that main highway on Rose Street.
Thanks for that, Cliff. Cricket, we'd like to hear from you.
Can you hear me? You might hear a lot of noise. I got 5 children in my midst, but I'm so excited that this is being talked about. When I lived in Blue River prior to the fire, and we're still property owners on that corner of Rose Street and Blue River Drive, which is very close to one of these options. I rode my bike to work every morning to the McKenzie River School, and I always dreamed that we would have some way for kids to get to school in an alternative way than the bus. And it didn't always feel super safe when a car would overtake me, but most of the time I could get to school with my bike and my kids in a trailer and maybe be passed by 2 cars. So I think it could bring a lot of people, if we do have this connectivity to our little zone, to bike it, especially if it connects in with that trail system that goes through Blue River Park and then loops around the river. So thank you for having thoughts about lighting on the bridge in mind for the residents around. Although we're far from having the funding to do what we want on our little corner, we definitely would love people to be able to get there in alternative ways than driving. And we are considering designs with some ample bike parking on our corner as well. As much as big machinery, if we needed to place that on our property, we have a septic system now put in place where maybe that big machinery would need to be. But we would definitely welcome people if this is getting built to station and use our spot as a helpful place in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great input.
Yeah, thank you, Cricket. And again, just wanted to make sure people who might have joined late, I said at the very beginning that we don't have construction funding. We're not, ready to deploy. We're at the feasibility stage where we're really wanting to figure out what the community needs and wants before I try to invest more time into the wrong solution, right? So just really appreciating your really candid feedback. Thanks, everyone. And let's see, I'm going to call on Chris Lavoie now.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's pretty cool. Yeah, I think for it would be super awesome. So I'd hate to lose out an opportunity and just opt for nothing if these are the options that we have available. So I appreciate you guys working on this and coming up with some ideas and seeing how they play out.
Thanks, Chris. And part of your communications was a little choppy with your microphone, but I think we picked up the sense that you appreciate us looking at options. And what we explored, we've looked at what was close for a county project, what was kind of close to the bridge, where did we have some existing rights of way? But there may be more possibilities. And if we hear through this process, you know, other desires, this is an opportunity for me to just at least capture and record if there is strong interest for something closer to the highway that might become maybe someone else's project, an ODOT project. But again, I want to use the most of everyone's time and capture what you're saying and be able to communicate that effectively so that we make the right decisions moving forward for this community. I'm going to call on Sam Sweetland. That's what I'm seeing on the name.
Yeah, Sweetland.
Thank you.
It's all right. I'm concerned one first about the bridge, and I don't necessarily like just staying with the same bridge. I wouldn't want just a vanilla cement barriers on either side that have some character of a bridge that could include a walking path or a bike path that could join in, just be attached to the same structure as the bridge.
Well, we are going to look at some design concepts in a minute. So thank you for being interested in what something might look like. I think that's all of the hands raised that I'm seeing at this point. I have to make sure I'm seeing everybody accurately. Okay, so I'm gonna screen share again, get back to my presentation. All right, so I think we are ready to continue. And John, it was really important for our team to really appreciate the natural, beautiful context of Blue River. So this is what we're all going to celebrate in the next few slides.
Right. Yeah. So I just want to say thanks for all that input. Super helpful. As we go through this presentation, we're exploring and beginning to think about these things, but we're also getting ever so slightly more and more cart before the horse, because, you know, in bridge design, the sort of order of operations is to determine whether a bridge should be built or not. And then you determine where, if the answer is yes, you determine where it should be built. And then once you know those two things, you begin to figure out how you build it and therefore what it might look like and how it works. So what we're going to show you here are...
And I would also say, though, for me, it's helpful to show some kind of high-level concept of just to help people like imagine what that might look like, to even see if they would be receptive to the idea. Sometimes it's, if something's too vague. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So first thing is I want to just echo what some of the people mentioned in their comments here just now about how wonderful the existing bridge is and what a beautiful place Blue River actually is. I think it's really stunning. So Becky, let's go ahead. This, nobody on this call really needs to see this, but we have, you know, spent a fair amount of time looking around and understanding what the township of Blue River is like and what this wonderful bridge is. And I have to tell you honestly, I was bowled over when I first came and looked at this bridge, because I wasn't expecting to see something made with this much care that has this kind of architectural language that is something we see. It's pretty unique and special to Oregon, and it's something we see along roadways in some of the really most beautiful river valleys in our state. You see a lot of it in the Columbia River Gorge, and you see it in other places. And to come and find this little piece here was like discovering a little gem. And I wholeheartedly agree with the people who said we want to keep that, we want to preserve it. I think it's very special. And then the other notable thing, of course, is the absolutely breathtaking setting of the whole town in this natural valley and natural forest that are really, really wonderful. So we certainly are taking all of this into account as we're trying to solve this problem and figure out where the bridge should go and what it might look like. We're not talking about yet adding anything on to the bridge, this existing bridge, again, for a couple of reasons that I'll reiterate. One is that it's really beautiful, and it might be hard to add something onto it without detracting substantially from that. And the other is that, as Becky said earlier, it's not earthquake resistant. And anything we build today would be earthquake resistant. The building codes require that bridges be much, much more stout and resilient than they were when this bridge was built. So that's another reason we don't want to build something that depends wholly on this existing bridge. So we have developed 3 different theoretical concepts, and I'll talk about this slide in just a minute. We're not picking one above all the others today, and it doesn't necessarily have to be one of these 3. And in fact, it very likely, if it gets built, won't be any of them, but it might embody properties of some of them. We're not intending to sort of stage a beauty contest, at least not right now. But we just, as Becky said, we wanted to show you what some of these might look and feel like. And before we dive into that, this is a generic slide that I think, it's important to talk about. There's a standard family of structural types that we use to make bridges, and there's all kinds of variations of them within those families. But some of the standard ones you're all familiar with, and they have certain implications about how they affect the bridge. So on the left, you see an arched bridge. We've seen all kinds of arch bridges. They're one of the oldest structural types, way back when arches were made of stone. Now they can be made of concrete or steel. Sometimes the arches are entirely below the deck, but very often they're either partially above the deck, like this you see on the left, or entirely above the deck. And that really affects the user experience. As you're walking or bicycling across that bridge, it can really impact your views of what's around you and how you experience the landscape. In the middle, we see something that's maybe even more common as a pedestrian bridge type, and it's this, what we call a through truss. But we've all seen them. They're very common on railway bridges, for example, but these sort of verticals and horizontals and diagonal members that make these zigzag structures. Very often for a bridge, for a train, for people, they make it in a box shape, and you move through the box to get from one side to the other. And so that really has a very strong impact on your experience of how connected you are with this beautiful landscape as you cross. And then third, another really common way to make a bridge is to use girders, basically deep structural beams that sit entirely below the bridge deck. And the nice thing about girders and other structural types where everything is below the bridge is that being up on the bridge, except for the railing, which keeps you from falling off, your connection to the landscape around you and this beautiful scenery is completely unimpeded. It provides more of a feeling that you're in the landscape. And for that reason, because this is such a stunningly beautiful place, we've been focusing on solutions that keep the structure below the deck, because we think it would be a far superior experience. It's not a given. It's just what we, as designers of bridges, looking at this particular place and this particular context, thought would be maybe the most appropriate solution. So let's go ahead. So these 3 concepts all have the structure below the deck, as I said, and they kind of progress from simple to a little bit less simple to even a little bit less simple and more ornate. That's not meant to be a bad thing. Here, in each of them, I should say, we have taken the liberty of dropping a support on the north side, somewhere on the north side of the river. And the reason is the bridge, each of those alignments has a slightly different length, but it would be a pretty substantial length of bridge. And the thing about bridges is that the length of the longest span in between supports has a non-linear relationship to the cost of the bridge. So if you double the length of your main span of your bridge, you're going to more than double the cost. Right? So if it's possible, and again, that's part of this trying to understand the feasibility, but if it's possible, we think it would be wise to drop an intermediate support, and you're going to see that in all these schemes. The first one is a pair of steel girders, pretty simple. You can see these two vertical elements in orange on the bottom, and the depth varies. The depth is responding to the structural forces. This is not just a sort of straight, deep I-beam, if you will, but it's been shaped so that it's deep where it needs to be deep, and it can be shallower where it doesn't need to be as deep. So it sort of expresses a little bit the job that it's actually doing by its shape. Again, in all of these, the bridge deck is shown to be 12 feet wide, which is a pretty standard width when you have both pedestrians and bicyclists, and it would allow bicyclists to pass a person or a group of people or somebody pushing a stroller pretty comfortably without either party feeling like they're being crowded out. So this is shown on alignment C. Any of these options or some variant of them could be adapted to fit on any of the alignments. So this one just for purposes of illustration, we showed it on alignment C, and it's nestled right up against the downstream side of the existing bridge. Then we could do something that increases the depth of the girders in their deep spot. It makes them much more pronounced as a sort of piece of structure rather than just a sort of plank that's spanning between supports. This could be interesting. It's got some real structural efficiency that would help with it. And then we were just wondering and toying with the idea that maybe those two big steel plate girders, you see them at the bottom in orange and green, they're very deep. Maybe we could start to perforate them, cut out areas of this where it's not needed to enhance the aesthetics of the bridge. And maybe those cutouts have something to do with, they respond in some way to the existing Blue River Bridge, that classic railing that you see throughout the state, or something else. Doesn't have to be this, but that was the thought there. And you can see this is on, this one is shown on alignment B, which is the one that threads the needle through that easement that we're hearing maybe long forgotten by now. But as I said, a version of any of these could be placed on any of the alignments. So you're just trying to give you a sense of what this would look and feel like, what it might look and feel like. And then finally, we could try and again, strip away even more of the structural material where it's not necessary. Girders, deep I-beams are very straightforward and simple. They're relatively straightforward to make those, to fabricate them, but they also have a lot of extra material that you don't really need to have the bridge do its job, to hold up the load of people and bicycles going across it. And if we cut it out completely, and instead of having a steel plate between the bridge deck and the bottom member, what we call the bottom chord of this element, we have a series of struts. It begins to look a little bit like a truss, right? That we looked at a through truss as one of those bridge options that are common on railway bridges. In this case, we're keeping all of the truss struts below the deck so they don't impede your view, but they make this thing really visually light and delicate and it's an attempt to try and not detract from the view of the existing bridge that's there. You're never going to do that 100%, but it would be nice if it didn't compete with it quite so much.
All right, thank you for that. So next steps. So we are in the public input phase of this study. We're really wanting to get your input on what we've just shown you tonight. And then I'm going to be writing a final report of everything that we've heard and learned. And that's the project and process. So I should have my final report this summer. Let's see. The input opportunities. So following tonight, we're going to share the visuals that we presented tonight in a comment form with spots for you to identify advantages and disadvantages, kind of pros and cons, what you like and what you don't like about these various concepts. Or if you just want to say you don't like any of it, I want to hear that too. Or if you think of something completely different, I want to hear what you have to say. I'm going to be documenting everything that I hear, but I'm going to also be, I report, I will not identify individuals. So please feel, the comment form actually doesn't have a place where you have to identify who you are. If you want to keep your comments anonymous. I just want to really make sure that you all feel comfortable providing that feedback. I'm going to be emailing out that form. If you have any trouble with the form, please don't hesitate to call me or email me if there's a different way that you want to communicate the information. If you'd rather just talk to me by phone, that, I want to be able to hear from you in a way that works for you. We're asking if you could get these comments back to us by April 25th. That's not a hard deadline. I know some people might not be able to meet that deadline, but that's a time frame in which we can better respond to the information and prepare for a community open house that we're planning for May 14th in person at the school, where I'll be able to kind of report back where we are and what we've heard. But throughout the process, please reach out to me. I really want to emphasize that I'm available to you. And so I wanted to make sure you all have my contact information. Hopefully you're at this meeting because you received an email from me. And also please feel free to share this information with others who you might think might be interested. I'm really glad to see Ken from River Reflections here. So it looks like we might get some local media attention on this. And I'm going to stop sharing so that we can see everybody. But if we need to go back to slides, I can pull information back up again. But we've got time now to hear more comment from you. So I'll just open it up. Please raise your virtual hand again if you'd like to comment. Okay. Oh, Cricket. Oh, Cricket, you're muted.
I was joking about the roller coaster, but I like to see that other people thought that looked like a roller coaster. That's all.
Well, that prompt shows me that I was not paying attention to the chat. So I'm going to first call on Cliff because I see his hand raised, but then I'm going to start looking at the chat. Cliff?
Yeah.
So two thoughts. One, I'd like to see Matt McRae on a roller coaster going across. We'll see how that works out. And second, as far as I just want to remind folks that, we are getting a lot of attention from bicyclists. We've got the Dr. Heidi has been designated as a national bicycle route. And so we're going to get a lot of attention there coming into Blue River with bicyclists. We've had the Delta project for mountain biking that was just recently discussed in the community, which is at ground zero, so they say, but could bring in a lot of bicyclists in that regard too, not just our locals. So we need to consider, as we're trying to upgrade Blue River economically and the opportunities in Blue River, I think a bridge really warrants a lot of serious consideration. And then lastly, the lighting situation. If you're going to light this bridge, I would think that, again, I would opt for the one closest to the Mackenzie Highway because I think it'd be less obtrusive to homeowners with lighting. So just those are my last thoughts.
Thank you.
Cricket, your hand is up. Do you have, if you have more to say, I'd love to hear from you. No? Okay, you just had your hand up from last time. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat. So again, I'm just so grateful that you spent this sunny afternoon with us. We're done really way ahead of time. So feel free to, I'm going to hang out longer if you want to ask more questions, or if you just want to stay tuned for that comment form. I would really appreciate your help circulating that form, getting it out. We want to hear from people about it. And then be sure to mark the May 14th event on your calendar. It's not going to be just this project. It's going to be a tabling event with, I think I've got 8 other projects that are going to be there. So we'll share more information about that program soon, but please try to protect that time on your calendar. Oh, Cricket.
I can always think of more to say. Cliff's point about connecting the boat launch to downtown Blue River is really a really good one. I know currently it's like, our public bathroom. It's where businesses would send people to the bathroom prior to the fire, when we didn't have the porta potty like shared between us that we were renting. And yeah, my kids fish, so that we crossed that river. I crossed that river with babies and strollers, which sounds kind of crazy, but it was a thing. So I love keeping that in mind too. Feed 2 birds with 1 spoon, I suppose.
Thank you, Cricket. I love that saying, to feed the bird. Braden.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to point out what I'd kind of heard on other places as people are talking about the community wastewater system, that it might be a possibility that the bridge could be a place for the pipe to go. I know that's been mentioned. I don't know if that is a possibility, but I've just heard that before, and then it could prevent the pipe from having to go under the river. So, kind of another 2 birds with 1 spoon thing. If that's a possibility for those projects to be combined, I see that being an advantage. But again, that's just an idea at this point.
That's a great heads up. I mean, in any bridge project, we always try and spot the other opportunities out there to combine utilities and get cables or pipes or what have you from point A to point B. And then we design the bridge specifically to let it do that. And when we're successful, it's really great. And when we're not successful, somebody comes out of the woodwork in the 11th hour and says, "Oh, can I staple my pipe to the side of your beautiful bridge?" And we don't like that. So it's good to know beforehand so we can plan for it and not have it be an afterthought.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rob Woodard, who's managing the wastewater and water project from the county. He's in the same building as I am. We do know that the existing bridge is weight restricted, so there are limitations on how much additional weight can be added. We have had just high level discussions about could this be an opportunity to support that project. Certainly there's opportunities, and that's what we're exploring is opportunities. Let's see. So I think next in the queue was Brenda.
Hi. I just have a question about process. So we have the public meeting next, and then if a decision is made to go forward with a bridge, I have a question about funding. Who would be responsible for getting funding, or how would that happen?
Yeah, if it's a county project, if the community desires a bridge that's kind of in closer proximity to the existing county infrastructure, or where it would make sense that it's a county bridge, versus if it's really close to the ODOT facility, would it make more sense for it to be an ODOT bridge? That might determine who's leading the pursuit for a funding package, but I think Lane County would be a partner in any instance of trying to secure grant funding. I'm actively looking for grant funding. I've applied for grant funding for the Blue River Drive project for the parking and sidewalks downtown and the multi-use path to the school. And so I would see that this would be a part of that package. So it'd be federal grant funding is what I'm thinking of. And so it wouldn't be something where we'd be asking Blue River community to pay for it, certainly. And the timing is uncertain at this time. It's really important to kind of know what the community wants to support before you start investing more time into further exploration, trying to get funding for further design development and construction funding. But you do want to try to pursue those grants the time frame for when grant funding is announced versus when it's awarded can be many years. So if I applied for a grant today and I got it and it was awarded, I probably wouldn't get a contract signed with FHWA, Federal Highway Administration, until 2 years from now. And then it probably wouldn't be obligated for actual funding until 5 years from now. So that's why we're trying to line up things early so that we know which funding sources to try to pursue and what might make sense. So that's a really long way to say that it's really an uncertain time frame at this point, and it's highly dependent on us being able to secure federal funding.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Chris?
Yeah, I think that's a good point to reiterate. I'm really excited that we actually have the county working on stuff for us. And the challenge is if we don't do something now and just say, well, we don't need this that much or it's not that important, we're not likely to get an opportunity like this again. So if there's something that's forward thinking and future thinking, we should, as a community, embrace us exploring that and seeing how far we can get with it, since the opportunity is here now, again, because it might not be in the future. And also wanted to comment on somebody else's thought about pipes on the bridge or something, that aspect of putting it in number D. If there's a way we can get those power lines or cables or whatever that's crossing the river that are kind of unsightly over that, it would be really nice to put them into the bridge and get that visual junk out of the way. So it's another positive for that.
Thanks for that, Chris. Anyone else? Okay. Just wanted to call out what Matt McRae put into the chat. The open house will be held at the Mackenzie School from 4 to 6 p.m. on Wednesday, May 14th. And I'll be sending out the comment form tomorrow. So be looking for that. And if you've got any questions, that if you're sleeping over this conversation and thoughts come up and you want to reach out to me tomorrow with questions, really don't hesitate to reach out. I really appreciate hearing from you. And I love the Blue River community. I just love you guys, really. I just went in kind of cold the first community meeting, and just seeing the passion of community members wanting to support each other. It's something I wanted to be part of. So I'm going to keep pursuing funding for the things that the community wants. So I just want you to know that I'm working for you. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap up an hour early, and you can enjoy the rest. There's still sunlight out there. You can enjoy some of that. And I look forward to hearing more from all of you. Thank you so much for participating. Good night, everyone.